Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Copilot Learning Hub. All right, so big topic from all of you, which is AI agents. Many of you have asked us, what exactly are AI agents? And more importantly, how can I build them? Or how can I build with them? So instead of us coming up with some sort of an elaborate story, we thought we would call the Empress of AI agents. She doesn't know we call her that behind her back. Mona from the Azure AI team. So, Mona, please introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Mona Whalin. I am a principal PM with the Azure AI platform team, and I was one of the founding PMs that found Agent Service that was launched late last year.
Yes, so if all of you remember Ignite, you know that big conference we had back in November, their team launched the Azure AI Agent Service, which a very mouthful of a name, but it's incredibly powerful. And Mona was one of the founding members of it. And we've been trying to drag her into the studio to do a demo for a while. But now we feel like we're in a really good place where she can show you what is it, how does it work, and how you can get started. So,
Fantastic.
do you mind telling everyone what is it exactly?
So I think to start with, we've been hearing in the industry about agents and how agents can do everything. They can automate workflows. I think the biggest thing that we have realized as part of this developing this product has been these agents can not just help you automate your process, but they can help you utilize all of the data, all of the things you have within your ecosystem, your enterprise ecosystem, your Microsoft ecosystem, wherever it is. We want your agent to be able to access those tools, those capabilities to help you do more with the existing processes that you have. So whether it's reasoning over your data or performing an action for your end users, to think about the boring, repetitive tasks that you've been doing, how can you reimagine it with an AI tool that can do it for you like very, very easily? Yes. So a part of our problem space has been looking at what, so all of this is easy, right? But why does agents
It's
seem
not
so
easy,
complicated?
to be clear. None of those are easy because we've been tangling with automation for what, 35 years at this point? So I would think hopefully agents make it easier. Yeah.
Uh, But then we think about then what is new, right? And Donna, you know that it's the LLMs and the potential of LLMs to be able to call tools and to be able to make function calls, right? And that ability has sort of like opened up a world of possibilities with what you can do in the world of automation. So starting with like what you can do to integrate different tools or for your agent to be interoperable with your existing systems and systems of records. Maybe you want to think about how do you want to scale these agents across the board. But before we even get into that, with Foundry, a product that we launched last year, sort of starts thinking about all of these as building blocks into how we can help you automate your business processes, make them better, right? And you can see that agent service is actually a part of those building blocks that makes the best use of all of the layers that you think about that Azure is providing to you, whether it's bringing you the best in class LLMs or bringing you the right services such as AI search tools or the content safety filters. And at the bottom of it, all of the observability and evaluation that becomes so critical, right?
So this is why I think the Azure AI agent service is different than most agent services because it's part of a bigger ecosystem of tools that you're going to need if you're going to make production level agents to deploy to a company to be used by more than just you and your neighbor's cat. You're going to need some stuff. You're going to need a model catalog so you can choose your model. You're going to need content safety, so you put guardrails around your information. Thank you. You need observability so you know what the heck your agents are doing. But these are all a part of Foundry anyway.
Yeah.
And this is why the agent service, I think, makes the most production-ready agents rather than some cool demo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is our main goal. How do we help you get from prototype to production as fast as possible?
I love that. Prototype to production as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So most of our idea around helping you securely build, deploy, and scale agents, all of it lies, with Azure as the foundation for what you can build. So whether it's having our extensive data connections for you to land, to use for your agent to use your data wherever it is, you can not only create agents with GPT models from OpenAI, but think about Llama agents or Mistral agents, and in the future, any model that can support function calling. You should be able to build with those agents. And what that means for the developers that you have better cost efficiencies, you have more options if you're building out more complex workflows where maybe you don't need a GPT-4 for every single agent that you create, right? So this sort of like opens up the world of creativity when you're trying to figure out what's the best way for you to automate your workflows with agents.
So you can use those newfangled reasoning models, or you can use a really basic, local model.
Yeah.
Because all depends on cost and the specific scenario you're trying to solve. Because again, not everything needs O3, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I would love to show you all this in a
Yes,
demo because it
please.
becomes more vivid. And what I'm trying to say is that, but think of the agent service as a way for you to build your agents end to end. The only platform you will need to prototype, to productionize your agents, and to be able to launch them in a more secure way so that it meets the needs of your customers.
I love that. Okay, so Mona's going to show us how to do this because all of you have asked, and why not call an expert?
So what you're seeing on the screen is the Azure AI Foundry, and you can get here by going to ai.azure.com. And this is essentially our no-code platform for you to quickly get started with agents, with foundational models, and the various features associated with it, which a lot of which you can see on this screen on the left pane, which some of it which we'll not go into today, but there's more coming up in the next few months where you can see how agents can work with some of this. So how you get started is you create a project, and once you do that, you will either have your a foundation model that you've already selected in your project, or you will be able to select the different types of models that have the function calling capability that you'll be able to use with your agent. So what you're seeing here, a lot of you might be familiar with this, is a version of the chat playground or the assistant playground. What is new here is all of the tools that, and we say that tools are what gives an agent its powers. So all of the tools that you have to add knowledge, whether it's from your local files, or maybe you want to add your existing search index so you don't have to create that search index, or maybe you want your agent to have access to the internet because it can benefit from the most recent information from the web that was not a part of the LLM's training data, right? And similarly with actions, there's several things that you can do on the playground as well as in code, starting with tools like Code Interpreter that a lot of our customers have found immensely useful, where they have used and created data analyst agents to equip their existing business analytics team to improve how fast they can create reports and analyze the data across their organization. And then there's like several others, like you can create your own custom tools using OpenAPI specs. You can create stateless or stateful code functions so that you can have your agent do actions over app boundaries, and think about long-running agents, event-driven agents. There's so much that you can do there.
But the big key is extending the LLM's capability with knowledge and tools. And that is, I think, the big thing, because a lot of people ask, what is the difference between a standalone Copilot out of the box and an agent? And I think of it as an agent is a Copilot that can do stuff, right? It has more information because you're letting it connect to a bunch of different sources, including the internet, air quotes, or attached to specific tools where it can either pull information or do something for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that is just the logical next step of Copilots. First one is like you get responses back. Second one is now it takes those responses and takes some sort of an action.
And I think to add to that, Donna, the important thing here is that all of this is created while maintaining state.
Right.
And that is very key to what enables an agent, because an agent is able to remember your past actions. We are helping you create persistent conversation. And what that means is your agent does not forget what it did in its last conversation with you. And that becomes very powerful because when we talk about RAG, we talk about adding files, and that gives your agent context. But we should not forget that the thread in itself is a very powerful source of information for the agent to remember what has worked for you in the past, what it has not, right? And a lot of it starts building into the idea of memory and agent memory, which is an emergent area of interest. But the cool part here is that agent service has the inbuilt thread management and conversation management, so you don't have to go and build your own state management system, which in and of itself is a big headache.
Which would be annoying to take the entire conversation, paste it, or make some sort of a vector for that, and then say, okay, and then on loop, keep calling the conversation. It actually maintains state. So you don't have the 51st date situation, like hello, which is how I explain it. I say, Copilot, it's like 51st dates. We met yesterday. I asked you this question, has no idea what you're talking about. But an agent, it remembers we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it's not in the context of that immediate thread, it's saved to the short-term memory, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. And then think about, combined with the power of your internal company data, what your agent knows from the internet, the conversations that you've been having, as well as connections to the vast ecosystem of tools, some of which I showed you.
Yes.
Knowledge sources can include, you can add files from SharePoint, in the future from Fabric. So
Hey,
forget
that's
the world of NL2 SQL. You don't have to write queries. You can, your agent can just query and write SQL queries and bring you the data from structured files.
Hey, I like that. No offense to all you data fabric people. I really appreciate what you do. I don't want to do it. But that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you think people can build that would really help them?
I think that some of the brass tacks use cases that we've been seeing has been around the area of improving how you analyze data and to be able to automate some of the reports without, with minimal human intervention. So one of our customers, which I will not name, uses code interpreter to develop reports of their manufacturing, of their factories, and the state of their manufacturing operations, right? And they have this data that keeps getting refreshed and gets pulled through an API that they've connected to an agent. And then what they've gone ahead and done is they have created an agent that creates an automated weekly report and then sends it out to all of their line of business managers. And it's basically a completely hands-off operation at this point. And the agent is using code interpreter, it's using function calls. And then they've also automated a bunch of other tasks using logic apps, which again is a very easy way for you to just define what the business process is, and then the rest of the automation is just taken care of.
Okay, I love this because what this sounds like is LLM plus automation plus tools plus code interpreter together is able to make this automated report that goes out internally that people need to know, like, here's what's going on with their inventory, whatever it is, without some poor human having to do this on a Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I mentioned before, what's boring, what's repetitive, what are some of the things that you're doing over and over again that is easily definable that you think you can just hand over to an agent so it can do it?
Yes, I love that. And I think that's key. It's a lot of people go and put their agent in front of customers on the first day. We're like, maybe you should solve an internal annoying process before you go and have it be the face of your company to customers, which I don't agree with, by the way. I'm a big believer in these hideous back office tasks. Because, I run a fashion company, and the most annoying thing in the world is inventory management. If I can just know what the inventory is week over week without me having to go query all of the 10 businesses that store my things, that would just be helpful to know these people need a refresh of this, these people need a refresh of that, et cetera. But that's exactly the kind of thing I think agents are useful for, is the stuff that takes up time every week for you that does not need your unique special skill set.
Exactly. And going with what you said, starting with tasks that are low risk. So think about like informational tasks, like the one I mentioned are very useful, right? Low risk, nobody is sort of like getting paid thousands of dollars because your agent gave the wrong information. And then once you start gaining confidence that your agent's working, that's when maybe you start looking at workflows that combine informational plus transactional workflows with agents. So there's a lot that can be done here.
Exactly what Mona says. Have the first activity be something informational, internal. Then do something transactional, read, write, per se. Right? Yeah. Before you go messing around with your customer database, get really comfortable with like internal things.
Yeah. So let me show you an informational use case. So this is an analyst agent that I have created, and the instructions are bare bones, but you can make it as complex as possible, with the caveat that we've seen that the best results are not when you're overstuffing your meta prompt with like a very in-depth, if then else kind of statement within your meta prompt. That's not to say that your agent will not handle it, but you should be able to experiment with different variations of that. Then I've added 2 knowledge tools because I think that that's what I want my agent to do. So the use cases here are because it's a research agent, it's an analyst agent, I wanted to have access to external information. And then I've also added a SharePoint connection. And this is for a company called Contoso, which we know is famous, a famous non-existent
Most
company.
wealthy company in the world, I think. Right?
Yeah, and we have that SharePoint has access to the team policies. So both of these information are things that are not a part of the agent's LLM training data. So let's see how whether the agent answers our question. So let's say if I ask it, what is Contoso's whistleblower policy? So what I'm expecting here is it should be able to detect what tool it needs to call to be able to get this information. And that's a part of how so you can see now it's looking for references using SharePoint.
I love it. Look, it's even telling you what it's doing.
Exactly. So seems like it is trying to extract the information. And as you can see, you can like go through you can like go through, you can see that the process that it's going through as it's like looking through that and it's trying to like debug.
I like this transparency angle. This is helpful.
Yeah, and it's trying to solve for that. This is another thing that is a major area of focus for us, is that a lot of the times, because the agent is non-deterministic in its response, you don't really know what tool might be called. So I'm going to try this again. And this is
the best thing about AI demos. Each one will be a little bit different. You know it's running live because, well, you're watching it. There's no smoke and mirrors here.
Yeah. So this is where it becomes interesting, because with the determinism, it is a power, but also sometimes the AI can hallucinate and pick the wrong tool.
It's your very creative office partner. Creative is good, sometimes too creative.
Yeah. So it seems like we've run into some issue. Okay, let us maybe try the other tool, which is the Bing rounding tool, and see if it can bring us the top headlines for today. And this should be able to bring you the latest headlines and also the sources of information from where it gets the headlines. So it is bringing me the headlines, and all of these like seem new as of today. And then you can also like go into the sources, and you can see the citations, and it can.
I love that.
It's bringing you here.
That's very smart, because it had to do a troll without you telling it where to look.
Yeah. I'm still not giving up on the SharePoint agent, but maybe I can also show you while we try to figure out SharePoint of how the code interpreter works.
Yes.
Now, code interpreter has been there for ages. What becomes interesting is when you try to use code interpreter in conjunction with files, which is a new feature that we launched this year. So in this case, let's say I add the code interpreter tool, and what I've given it is some stock data and information from Nifty 500, which is a very well-known stock index. And once you do that, it can help us analyze and get answers to not just like very basic questions like, hey, what is the company with the, let's say, the largest revenue in the Nifty 500, but also you can draw graphs and charts, you can do comparisons, you can do calculations, all of them done through natural language. So in this case, let's say, what are the, typos. Top 5 revenue generating companies in the attached Nifty 500 file. And I say that because the latest Nifty 500 might have different information, because the agent has access to
the latest info.
So let's see what it comes up with. So this is the data that we have from the file, and I can show you if you can see my screen. This is the file from which it has pulled the information, and this is a snapshot of the quarterly results from these companies. And similarly, you can have it draw a bar chart.
Oh, that's cool.
Of these top 5 revenue.
That's cool. Here's a hack. I love this. I haven't tried this one yet. I haven't tried to draw charts and graphs.
Yeah, and what this does is like, think about how a human would do this, right? Like you have Excel and you have all of this data, and then you're creating graphs and charts, you're doing comparisons.
I love that.
So, there you have it. You have a comparison of the revenue, and it has basically through one command,
Yeah.
it has done what would take a human like 5 or 6 steps to do. And
Yeah.
personally, as a PM, I am using Code Interpreter to analyze the verbatims from my customers and survey results. I mean, these are just like no-brainer workflows that you can even do. Even if you're not building complex agent work.
It's very much a solving your own problem. I love how you say that, solve your own problems.
Yeah.
And a big thing I have is always analyze this data and make it visually interesting for people. This is not my skill, right? How do you make it visually interesting for people in the form of charts and graphs? I love making this someone else's, aka some other agent's problem.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you have it. There's a ton of other things that you can do. There's Azure Functions, which you can use to define human in the loop agents. So think about if there's a workflow where, let's say I want to get like $500 for a training approved, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't trust my agent to be able to provide approval on that because whatever reasons, right? So you should be able to define functions that route that request to you, so you can approve my request, and the agent then communicates that and flags that in the system. So
Human in the loop, very important. Don't have your agent approve things on your behalf without a lot of testing.
and this is possible today. You can build this today with agent service, with all of the tools and functionalities we have on the Foundry portal as well as through the SDK.
Okay, so for our beautiful audience observing us today, what is the first thing they should do?
The first thing is go to ai.azure.com, the fastest way for you to start experimenting, which is what I demoed you with. You can also go to the Learn documentation, which is a fantastic place for you to get started. So go to the Quick Start. Whether you want to try out on Foundry, maybe you want to try out on the Python SDK, get started with the Quick Start, set up your agent, set up your project, and set up one single agent for one use case or one workflow that you want to automate today.
I love it. And you don't need to use all the tools at once. You can just use web search, bring back the latest results for X thing that I care about. Yeah. I love this. Mona, I have learned so much during this hour, and I'm going to go build an agent to bring me a daily report of all of the AI news breaking, because there's all of y'all keep causing new news every hour. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all. See you next time.